Dwarves are known for being fierce, weapon-yielding small creatures that live within mountains, mines, or underground. They're considered master craftsmen, specifically when dealing with forging metal. And they're known for the really hard work ethic and that they're guardians of treasure. But the question is how long have dwarves been creating magical swords? Hi, I'm Rebecca of Rad Notes Book Coaching, and I help speculative fiction writers write books that don't suck. But I do that by offering new possibilities of how to incorporate creatures into your stories each month. And this month, May, we're going to talk about dwarves. So dwarves first appeared in literature during the 13th century in an Old Norse textbook called Gylfaginning. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I may be saying and mispronouncing these words wrong. I'm not a Norse expert mythologian. I think I just made up that word. But the purpose of the video is to expand your creative writing juices, not having perfect enunciation, because when you're reading, you don't have to pronounce it, right? Just think about that. So there's 3 sections of this book. One in particular is named Prose Edda. It was written by an Iceland native named Snorri Sturluson. No, I did not make up that name. It's awesome though. So much of the information within his collected text reflects the basic information we know about dwarves today. Okay, so according to Snorri, I do love his name. I mean, seriously, doesn't it sound like one of the 7 dwarves from Snow White? Or is it just me? Maybe that's why I wrote about dwarves. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. So according to Snorri, dwarves were born in Old Norse mythology, right? So as the story goes, the first 4 dwarves were created from a decomposing giant named Ymir. Now, when those first 4 dwarves emerged from the giant's rotting flesh, the bodies were indistinguishable and lacked intelligence. I don't know why. I mean, it just popped out of a dead, gross, decaying body. Why wouldn't they not be perfect? Anyway, maybe that's just me. So the Norse gods, also called the Aesir gods, are Odin, Thor, Freda, Loki, and Baldur. Okay, so they transfer these weird little creatures into how we know them today, which are more human looking and highly intelligent. So those first 4 dwarves, luckily they all fixed them all up, they took their rightful place in what's known as the 4 corners of the earth, north, east, south, and west, and together they held up the world's sky. Now, I have additional questions about this. Is why are there corners of our earth? Is in Norse mythology saying we did have a flat earth? Is it a cube? Is it a diamond cube? You know, so it's still dimensional, but it's got the points. Do what you will with this, writers. Do what you will. Anyway, I didn't find any information about how the first 4 dwarves procreated and a whole society of dwarves were made. So a lot of questions there, no answers, but please drop a comment in if you're familiar with these answers, because I'd love to learn about it. Regardless, the whole society of dwarves was created, and then they lived in a realm called Nidavellir. Again, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Now, let's take a moment to reiterate what dwarves look like, just real quick. And it's more than likely something you're already aware of. Let's be real. So they're really short. They're sturdy, exceptionally strong. They have long beards and long hair. Sounds like some of my sister-in-laws. Anyway, their strengths are that they're considered resilient. They're craftsmen specifically of forging metal. They're considered loyal, really great in combat. They're masterful negotiators, and they're considered hardworking. Their weaknesses are that they're stubborn, short-tempered, and obsessed with gold or treasure. Still think of some of my sister-in-laws. Don't worry about that. So now that we have the basics out of the way, let's really break down of how dwarves can play a role in your speculative fiction story. So let's look at some examples from film to start and how they've done it. So dwarves often are depicted for their magical abilities. Cool. Specifically, and like we talked about, it's about how they can forge metal into powerful magical weapons. So for instance, Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was forged by a dwarf. And according to the Marvel movies, which may or may not go with Norse mythology, I'm not as much of an expert in Norse mythology as I am some other ones, but in the Marvel movies, so let's stick to what I know. The Marvel movies that a dwarf forged Thor's axe after his hammer got shattered. Again, I don't know how specific that is. I haven't looked it up. Go with me. In literature, you can find dwarves in Lord of the Ring where they created the ring and they created Durin's axe. In Harry Potter, dwarves appeared, but they were they were less stereotypical, I should say. So they were really clean shaven, remember. They were well dressed in like a three-piece suit, but their natural characteristics didn't change. They were guardians of the gold in the bank. In another book, R.A. Salvador, great series, Drizzt series it's called. There's like 39 books in them. I've read 8, and in 3 of those books, this dwarf named Brunner Battlehammer played a major role in these 3 books. He was the king of the clan. He was a master craftsmith, and he was really good friends with Drizzt, where they were practically both main characters. I mean, one always is going to take the lead, and of course it's Drizzt because it's a Drizzt series. But Brunner had quite a large role in those 3 books. So if you're going to include dwarves in your story, just determine if they're going to be a side character, a main character, or an obstacle. Either way, they have certain characteristics they have to follow, but you can be creative and have fun with it, right? Here's one. Feel free to steal it, and I'm not kidding. So I was thinking about this. So a dwarf's identity is deeply entwined with their ability to create and forge magical weapons. But what if, and I'm kind of thinking young adult here, but again, do what you will with this, is what if a young dwarf in your fantastical story never really got a good grasp of forging metal, like the rest of the clan, and now he's considered like a dunce? So how would this main character, this young main character, move through the story knowing that the rest of the clan thinks he's a failure? There's quite a few ways you could do that, but remember, whether your creature is a character, so therefore is going to have kind of a human type experience, and I'm saying that because that's going to relate to your readers, who I'm pretty sure are human, give or take, but for the most part. So how you use dwarves in your story is absolutely up to you. But if you're interested in learning more about dwarves and how they relate to your story, down in the comments, you can click onto my link of where I do this, what we're doing here, but in written form. So I wish you well. Thanks for listening.